Hey, this is Jesse Krieger, and so glad to have you joining us today here leading up to the Great American Writing Contest. You've already gotten your hands on book proposal Breakthrough, and if you've taken a look at that, then you're going to be very familiar with our special guest on this video, Camille Virginia, forthcoming author of The Offline Dating Method and the winner of the writing contest last year. So welcome, Camille. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Jesse.
My pleasure. Before we dive into this, I'm just reflecting that, your book proposal won a full publishing deal with us last year, and it's been a real pleasure to get to know you and work with you, and now super excited for your book to be coming out really soon. Anything you'd like to say about that experience for everyone watching?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for offering this. I think this is amazing that you're giving this to people who may otherwise not know about the options out there to get their book out in the world or not have the money to do that. So no, I knew as soon as I saw my name under your prize that that was going to change my life. And, sure enough, my book isn't even published yet, but I'm already feeling that the life changes and the business changes. So I'm very grateful.
That's awesome. And I'll commend you on all the great work you put into the proposal and just your work ethic in general, as I think will come out in this conversation, is something everybody watching this should model, because Camille goes after it. She doesn't mess around. And I'll let her speak more to that. So, let's dive in. What we really want to talk about in this video are 5 steps to help people write the best winning book proposal possible. And the first step that you have for us is start capturing your ideas now. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I was in an interesting situation when the writing contest was going on, in that for the majority of the window of the contest, I was in the middle of launching for a program for my business. So I could not work on the actual proposal until the last 8 days before it was due. So ideas kept coming to me, in between the launch when I was falling asleep at night, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like, oh, this is great for the book proposal. So I would capture all of those ideas, because by the time I actually started writing in the literally week before it was due, I had tons of notes to go on, and it was more just a matter of organizing them and putting them into a narrative, as opposed to trying to look at a blank page and getting overwhelmed with where to even start. So as those ideas start coming, have like a go-to capture place for yourself. It could be writing them down, it could be emailing yourself like I do, OneNote, Evernote, anything like that.
And just any ideas about the book, or what other things were you taking notes on or collecting, information about?
Anything related to the book. So it was helpful that the launch I was going through was actually the basis of the information for the book. So my mind was in that, but that doesn't have to be the case. It could be ideas for the book proposal on how your book is different from all the other books out there. It could be a content piece that you want to be sure that, oh, this is a great positioning tactic. This is why my book will sell really well, like marketing ideas, anything that might help, as you read the template of the proposal, any of those topics that come up along those lines, just capture them. Even if you don't know where it fits, capture them.
I like it. That's great advice. So, everybody, as you're working on your book proposal, thinking about the book you're either writing or want to write, just keep a repository of ideas, whatever stage you're in, and they'll start to kind of take on a life of their own and reappear at the right time to fill in a blank as you go through that process. So great. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is give yourself 1 week of total devotion. And I'd be impressed if you actually wrote that whole book proposal in 1 week. Was that the case?
That was the case. It was 8 days.
Consider me impressed.
Luckily, I'd been capturing ideas, so I had pages of notes to go through as a starting point. But I mean, my launch closed August 31st, and I think the submission deadline was September 10th. So literally had limited time. But I work really well when I pull up and just devote time to something. I'm a day writer, as they would call it. I can't just work in 1 hour chunks. So this might be different for other people, but if you have a couple weeks before the deadline, carve out a week like maybe every evening you devote to your book. Maybe you take a couple days off work, take a long weekend to devote to your book proposal. Whatever feels right for you to get the time that you need, do that a couple weeks before the deadline. And we'll go into why I recommend a couple weeks before the deadline, which I didn't have the luxury of having, in the third point. But for point number 2, give yourself that time and that dedicated space to really go deep into it.
Yeah. Would you recommend people, go so far as to schedule and block it off in their calendar and rearrange, to know exactly when that time is that they're going to be focused specifically on the book proposal?
Absolutely. That's a minimum. If it's not in your calendar, it's not going to happen. We all know that. I went so far, Jesse, as to take a train 2 hours south of me and hole up in an Airbnb for 5 days and just write, because I didn't even want any distractions from home. I wanted just my space. That's a little extreme. Like maybe that sounds great to some people and other people are like, she's crazy. But whatever works for you to get that time, because before you know it, the deadline's going to be here. And if you haven't put things into place and you're not ready, you might be wasting the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. And I would echo, there's something helpful about changing location to get the creative juices flowing, especially if you go to a place for the specific purpose of working on it. Your subconscious starts to prepare you for when you arrive to just merge into that creative writing flow. And for everybody, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you have a deadline, like with the Airbnb, I had 5 days to knock it out. Like there's nothing like a deadline to make you get really focused.
I love it. And for the Great American Writing Contest this year, 2019, you have close to a month starting after July 2nd when we close registrations to create the whole book proposal. Now you're getting some training and some perspectives before the entry period closes, but throughout that month, both myself and Tom Morkus and Adam Hoagie will be advising you on that creation process. It'll be kind of like back in school, high school, college. You know the final's coming up, but do you plan your time accordingly, or do you wait to that last minute? And to that effect, it's just an interesting study in human nature to see how people work with a deadline when there's a big prize and opportunity on the line. So thanks for that. Let's move on to number 3. Third step to writing an amazing winning book proposal is?
To get feedback and give yourself some space from it. So this is the luxury I did not have, but if I had to do it all over again and I wasn't launching, I would build this in. But once you write it, you're going to have like a crappy first draft, as everyone does, give yourself some space, because you will have read it so many times by that point that you are losing perspective. So while you're giving yourself a week of space or so, have someone else read it. For me, my parents are avid readers, and so I gave it to them, and they had a week to read it. I got a week space, or no, they had 2 days to read it. Sorry. Ideally, they would have had a week. And so when we came back, I had those fresh eyes on it. I had a couple-day break from it, and they had some fantastic edits that just made it, took it to the next level that I was too close to see. So I recommend that.
Great. So even as you're planning your time out, doing some creation and then scheduling in or allowing for space to get feedback and also let your mind just run free, because it's true. You lose perspective in a long, writing project like this if you just stay in it and never remove yourself from it. Anything else you'd say on number 3, Camille?
No, I think that's it. I think, also the people that you ask to get feedback on it, make sure they are people that they're either avid readers or they're your target market, because some people can, everyone is quick to give feedback. Whether it's valuable feedback or not is the question. So make sure you choose those people purposefully.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for that. So number 4 and 5, we get more into the specifics of what you're writing and what to focus on in the book proposal writing process. Number 4, you said, show why it's different from every other book. And it's true if you've looked at the book proposal that Camille wrote, and as you get closer to or enter the contest, you'll see the outline structure that we recommend. A big part of writing a good book proposal is talking about the other similar books in your target market, in your audience, in your readership. knowing what those are is a start, but explaining why your book is different is really what's required. So what was your experience in writing that aspect of the book proposal?
The competitor, or the competitor section specifically?
Yeah, or just generally, what you have to say about showing why your book is different from every other book and or similar books, but in terms of the positioning part of the proposal.
So I would say part of the book proposal is the competitive analysis. And I think I posted on Facebook, hey, for people who know what my business is, offline dating, what are some books that you've read that are similar but maybe a little different from my book? So I learned of a couple books that I wouldn't have been aware of otherwise. So I would say that's a good way to kind of find competitive books. Then as you're reading them, make a note of what you like and what you don't like, or how your book is different in a way that actually matters, not just, arbitrary ways, but in a way that your book proposal and ultimately your book can contribute more or be a better reader experience or things like that. In terms of what makes your book different in general, this is looking more at like what's going on in the world. How does your book fit into the narrative of the media? With my book, The Offline Dating Method.
Yeah, let's talk about your book, The Offline Dating Method, and what you specifically found out in this process.
Yeah, so I'm the only offline dating coach out there right now, and I've known that I've had something very unique for a while. So when it came time to showcase that uniqueness in the book proposal, I've been keeping up on the narrative of the media, talking about the problems of digital dating burnout, social isolation, things like that. And that goes back to point number one of capturing things that might be relevant to your book proposal before you even need to write it. Is I had a list of all those articles that I could just pull up when I was writing the book proposal. So how does your book fit into what the world is needing right now, what the media is talking about? Because that will feed into promoting your book to the media when it's time to publish, and basically saying, here's where this fits in. This is why this is a timely topic. This is why the world needs this book.
Nice. Yeah, that's super helpful. And I want to bring everyone's attention to something that Camille mentioned. She said that she's the only offline dating coach out there right now. That's an immediate point of differentiation that is just so obvious, but it's worth not glossing over, because that's a unique twist. Even though dating itself and relationships and romantic advice of any nature or sort of bigger, broader categories that what she does fits within, but having a unique way to describe yourself in one sentence will go a long way. And it helps us and anybody that's evaluating your book proposal to be like, okay, well, why is this, for lack of a better word, why is this person different than the other couple hundred book proposals that we're looking at? You should be able to answer that question very clearly by the time you're submitting your book proposal. And just clarifying that alone is probably a great benefit as you work on your book and get yourself out there. So anything you'd like to add to that?
I know people might be thinking, well, yeah, offline dating, what's my equivalent in my industry? So I, again, am very lucky that mine's very different with that, but it doesn't have to be that different. It could be something that's been talked about a lot, but you have a unique perspective on it. You have a unique twist. Like what's in one or two sentences, how can you tell someone why they should pay attention to your story that you're going to tell in your book as opposed to all the other books that have been published out there?
Love it. And just looking at your proposal here, you chose Get the Guy, Learn Secrets of the Male Mind to Find the Man You Want and the Love You Deserve. It's a long title, but good one. Modern Romance, which isn't exactly a dating advice book, is it? But still, somebody who would read that book would probably really like yours. And then Captivate, The Science of Succeeding with People. And that was what you put in the proposal. As we've gone forward, we actually, I think, referenced different books when we're talking to the sales team and actually selling the offline dating method into retail. But it doesn't have to be a final end-all be-all. It's just give us the landscape of where your book fits into other books that are out there. And a word of advice on that, try and keep it within the last 3 or 4 years in terms of when these books were published. Saying your book is like the next fill in the blank that came out 20 years ago. That's a long time to do an apples to apples comparison.
Yep, great advice.
So, drum roll. Number 5, top tip to write a winning book proposal is?
Write it like you mean it. So this has a couple different parts to it. I think, I'm very passionate about most of the things that I do in life, and especially offline dating, which is really about human connection. It's not just about the dating aspect. So whatever your book is about, hopefully you're passionate about it, and find a way to bring that passion to the words. Like, I would not consider myself a natural writer. I have been practicing a lot over the years, and I've gotten better, but it takes a lot of work to make something seem, to get a point across in a way that's also entertaining and in a friendly tone. So go through layers. I kind of describe creating my book proposal as like carving a sculpture. It went through, first you kind of like chisel the outline, and you're like, you can look at it, you're like, okay, I can kind of see where that's going, but it's very rough. And that's your rough first draft. Then the next layer is going to be a little bit more defined. Maybe you start to see arms, maybe you start to see legs, things like that. And every time you go through the book proposal, it'll get better and better. But it's not like you're going to take a chunk of cement and carve a perfect finger and then work your way up to the perfect R, those things. So let it go in layers and just give yourself time to review that and have your passion come through. It may not come through in the first couple drafts, but as you're reading, how can you bring those words to life and show someone who has never met you, who's reading your book proposal, how much you care about this and why you're the person to tell this story.
And I'm really glad that you mentioned that last line of why you're the person to tell this story. It's one thing to describe the book. It's another to show how does this book fit amongst other similar titles. And then the coup de grace, the winning element, is why are you the right person to write this book at now, which is the right time. So if you get all those things right, then you're doing something very right. But in all seriousness, that is an important element that I think you really nailed. And I want to read everybody, if you watched the masterclass that came with Book Proposal Breakthrough, you saw that we highlighted a few excerpts from Camille's proposal. But the very first words, you open the document, scroll to the first page, and it says, "Can I tell you a secret? The offline dating method isn't just about dating. The material goes well beyond attracting a romantic partner, although that's one of the major benefits, and gives readers the roadmap to live a more meaningful and connected life with everyone." And then it goes on a few more sentences in, and in that first paragraph, I get it. So then there's a lot of supporting evidence and a lot of details. I guess my takeaway from that is to also pull yourself out of the weeds if you're doing research and citing specific articles and media mentions, and then say, what's the overarching, angle here, and how do you fit into it? So anything else you want to say in terms of writing it like you mean it, which I like that you came up with this as number 5.
Yeah, I think from that very first, title or subtitle and then going into the paragraph, that was purposefully like, okay, I've got to get their attention. That's just human nature, right? Like, no one wants to read something that's dry right off the bat. We're like, oh God, 40 pages of dry. Okay. You want to like show them you got personality and make them excited to read those next 40 pages. So, yeah, again, this is where giving yourself time is key, and then giving yourself space from it too. But using words that have that passion come across. Also, a tip would be write it just like you would a book. Write like you're writing to one person, as opposed to you guys, blah, blah, blah. It's always singular. It's you. You want the reader to feel like you are writing them a personal letter. So that's another tip.
That's true. And that's well said. It just comes to me as you were talking that it's less important in the book proposal to really nail like the sample chapter or the actual content that you're sharing of the book itself. I think it's actually the point of the proposal really is to describe it more from a high level and cover those main things of Why is this the right time? Why are you the right person? And why is this the right book amongst other options? If you nail that, as speaking as a publisher now, I'm always confident that we can take the manuscript itself and the material itself and mold it into something that achieves that standard. So setting that at the high level is really helpful, more so than trying to write a great chapter or two and including that in a mediocre proposal, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think adding on to that, I was just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to win a prize like this, that I wanted to show you and the review team that I will work very hard. And the only way I could do that, because I obviously couldn't talk to you, was in the book proposal and showing my marketing plan, showing I'd thought through things, having a track record of the media that I've been featured in, to show you that I will work very hard if you choose me for this. So whatever you can do in your proposal to communicate how much you thought you put into this, how much you want this, that's going to come through.
Yeah, fast forward to a couple weeks ago, and we're in New York at Book Expo canvassing the showroom floor together. So, you actually followed through, as opposed to just saying or showing that you can work hard. You consistently do, which totally bodes well for your success in every way as an author. So commend you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, these tips. I hope this is helpful for everybody watching. And depending on whether or not you've entered the contest yet, this is right when you're watching this video, this is the right time to register and enter the contest. The grand prize, just like last year, is a complete done-for-you publishing package with us at Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press. Includes editing, design, layout, sales, international distribution, opportunities to go to book shows, get featured at book signings and do in-store appearances, all that good stuff. It's a $25,000 value. So that's definitely one of the major prizes. And you can't win if you don't enter. But you also have the chance to win gifts from Christine Closer, her Get Your Book Done program, one of the best writing support programs I've ever seen. She's one of my favorite people in the author and publishing space, and we've collaborated over many years. So have a chance to learn how to write a great book with Christine as one of the other prizes. Others include Tom Morkis is offering his influencer marketing method to learn how to connect with influential people, get them to promote your book and your business, and build relationships with the people that are doing top-level things within your industry. You can also win from Adam Hoagie his fan-based formula for authors, how to build a thriving audience that's engaged with you, supports what you're doing, and more importantly, buys your book and signs up for the products and programs and experiences that you offer. You can also win entrance to Mastermind with Alinka Rutkowska, and that's over a $2,000 value. You can get book cover designs and other great writing and publishing prizes. So I can't even list them all in this video. What I'm trying to say is, if you're on the fence, it's time to jump off, join the contest, throw your hat in the ring, write a book proposal. If you've been thinking about writing a book, if you've started writing a book, this is the time to commit and get serious and get signed up. We'll see you inside for the month of training and support while you write your book proposal. And then we get to do the judging and awarding of prizes, which is one of my favorite parts. But you can't get there if you don't come in the front door. So hope that you register your spot for the Great American Writing Contest. I want to thank you, Camille, again for coming on. I'll kind of give you the final word here and then we'll wrap it up and see everybody in the next video.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I hope this has been helpful. And, I think just as long as you put your heart and soul into something, you really can't go wrong with that. And put in the hours too. Heart, soul, and hours, I would say. And if you're interested in my book, The Offline Dating Method, How to Attract a Great Guy in the Real World, it comes out September 17th.
Yes, it does. September 17th, everywhere books are sold. There's going to be a lot of media. You're going to hear a lot about it. And if you're watching this video now, I'm going to make sure that you get notified when Camille's book comes out. So support a fellow author. You already have by watching this far, but go all the way and pick up a copy of her book, or just stop what you're doing and pre-order it after you enter the writing contest, of course. So thanks, Camille. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in another video. Talk soon.